About sports, and it is another day. Katie on the scoreline. You expect to know a lot about what is happening in the world of sports, and the big one is all about Arsene Wenger. After 22 years, he's saying, "I've done all that I have to do at this club," and he's called it quits. But he has some few matches that he will be in charge of the Arsenal team. He's a confident chap, saying that I want to star because I want to finish on a high in matters to do with the Europa League. We will be dissecting that and much more. But in studio, as always, I'm here with Tyrus Wayaki, a man who used to call Arsene Wenger the Mugabe of football. He is finally out.
He is, but I'll celebrate that later. I'm quite in a somber mood, Moses. Thank you for having me here on KTN. Thank you, KTN, and thank you, dear viewer. We lost one of the best sports ministers this country has ever had just last Sunday. I'm talking of Honorable Kenneth Stanley Jindo Matiba, who was once upon a time Minister for Culture and Social Services, under which sports fell. And I do not know of a single Kenyan who has contributed to sports, but specifically to football in this country, in the way that Mr. Matiba did. You will remember that in the 70s, he took over the Football Federation, brought in a tactician from Germany who set up Olympic youth centers in the major cities then, as they were known, Nairobi, Mombasa, Kisumu, and Nakuru. And that formed the foundation on which the golden era of the 70s and the 80s Kenyan football was formed, leading to Gor Mahia becoming continental champions. And also, to boot, we lost Mr. Joseph Cyril Laval, a former Kenyan footballer. Coincidentally, I saw him exactly 15 days ago walking along Gong Road, and then 4 days later, he suddenly passed on. So my condolences to both families. Their immense contribution to football and sports in general in this country will be forever cherished. Yes. Just before I celebrate Mr. Wenger's departure, let me also say it's been sad over the last 2 weeks because this death also took place at a time when Kenya performed so dismally at the Commonwealth Games just concluded. And I think we now really need to decide whether we are going to take sports seriously or whether we are just going to pack it in the bag and forget about it. Yes, Mr. Wenger is gone. I began that campaign on the state broadcaster television almost, 15 years ago. I was almost a lone voice when I said that this gentleman needs to go. And I'll tell you why I said he needed to go. And coincidentally, this season, when I started coming on your show on the 24th of February, I banged on about how I said that this would be, predictably, Mr. Wenger's last season, and that has come to pass. So, mixed feelings. But more on the somber side because of the losses of these two gentlemen I've just mentioned.
Let's talk about this man we call Arsene Wenger because, yes, we know that he's a departed man because he's saying after the end of the season, I will not be taking charge of the Arsenal club. For him, he's done a lot, and we will now be just taking a look at the fact file for Arsene Wenger, what he's been able to achieve in what clubs. I know a lot of people actually don't know that Arsene Wenger was once a player, and he was a defender for that matter.
He was, and he also in psychology. I think that's why he was able to outlast our anticipations. We had anticipated that he would leave earlier, but you can never underestimate someone who has a degree in psychology. His mind games must have lasted him the whole hog.
You talk about those mind games, and yes, his name is Arsene Wenger. He was born in 22nd in 1949. So that tells you he is 68 years old, or young, if you will argue. For him, he's been able to play a very big part in different clubs that he's been able to represent. We'll take a look at the clubs that actually he has been a manager. And a lot of people remember him from Nice, where he started by becoming a manager. He went to AS Monaco. He also had some stint in Japan. At the same time, he also had some stint in Nagoya Grams 8. That one is actually in Japan, AS Monaco. So what does it tell you, looking at how heavy his managerial career was before coming to Arsenal in 1996?
96, exactly.
October 1st, to be specific.
Wow, impressive. You've got all this in there, haven't you?
The research does me wonders. So.
The thing is, Wenger is not a bad coach, but he stayed for too long. when you stay for too long, you outlive your usefulness. He should have won the Champions League with Arsenal. He didn't. And the minute he realized that it wasn't happening that way, that's when he should have packed it in and left. I started banging on about him, or rather against him, 15 years ago. And the reason why I did so was because Arsenal, under his watch, had gone for 5 consecutive seasons without reaching a UEFA Champions League quarter-final. Now, for a team of Arsenal's reputation, I think it's the most followed team in Africa. They've got a massive following. This is a side that should have actually had 1 Champions League under their belt in Mr. Wenger's tenure. They didn't. They came close to doing so in 2006 and were like 45 minutes away from it, leading 1-0 against Barcelona at halftime. And then they lost 2-1 by the time the final whistle was being blown. That's specifically where my problem, or rather my beef, so that the young guys can understand better, with Wenger began. And that's when I started saying, this guy is doing well in the Premier League, but Arsenal's bigger than the Premier League. He should do the honourable thing, take a bow and say, I've done my best.
Something that he's finally actually said is done his best and is out. We're talking about the clubs that he's been able to manage. You talk about in 1984 to 87, that is in France. He also went to Monaco the same year. He also went to Japan before joining Arsenal in that year, 1996, October 1st, where he's been in charge up to 2018, and he will be out at the end of this season. What has he actually been able to achieve when he joined Arsenal? When he's been actually in Arsenal, he's been able to win 3 titles. That is 3 Premier League titles: 1997 to 98, 2001, 2002, 2003, 2004. Maybe some of the best achievements that he's been able to achieve while a manager at Arsenal, one might agree.
Definitely, because he started on a bang and he had a fairly respectable group of players. He had, along the way, guys like Kanu Nwankwo, who came in at some point, and Kanu Nwankwo was the best that Africa could give at that point, well, alongside folks like JJ Okocha, who ended up at Bolton Wanderers. But he's had guys like Dennis Bergkamp, he's had Tony Adams, one of the best defenders in my lifetime, Martin Keown, Thierry Henry. I mean, with such a breed of players, this was, with all tremendous humility to these achievements, this was just not good enough. He should have gone for Europe and won it. But yes, to be fair to the man, I mean, there's coaches whom if you gave such players, they still wouldn't win it. But yes, he won the Premier League. He went an entire season unbeaten. That's quite something. 38 matches unbeaten, home and away.
The Invincibles.
The Invincibles. That's brilliant. I mean, give the man his due. But when you look at the caliber of players that have trained under him, played under him, it's like having the most thoroughbred horses on earth. Thierry Henry won the World Cup at the age of 20. What stopped Wenger from conquering Europe? I know he won the European Cup Winners' Cup somewhere along the way, like 20-odd years ago, to be precise, with players like Ian Wright. And that was brilliant. That was a good start. He should have gone the next step or two and won the Champions League.
But he tried. You're talking about Champions League, but he tried. He was in the finals. Remember, in 2006, Barcelona became that team that made him not taste that victory. So,
yes, he did. And my friend, let me take you back a bit what I said. 5 consecutive seasons without reaching a UEFA Champions League quarter-final. You know, if you want to break even and sort of make money, you have to get to a UEFA Champions League quarter-final. It is from that stage that the visibility escalates onto other levels altogether. And for a team like Arsenal to go 5 straight consecutive seasons without reaching a UEFA Champions League quarter-final is simply unforgivable. I mean, I've got to keep it real. It is. And that's where my problem with him emanated from. And I held on to that problem. I never stopped banging on about it. And I have done so for the last 15 years, on and off air. And good luck to him. He has done what he has to do. We wish him the best of luck.
We will be talking about Arsene Wenger, but very, very quickly, we also see FA Cup titles, been able to get 7. You talk about him being that metal in matters to do with the Premier League. Yes, in Premier League, he had 3 titles. FA Cup, he has been able to scoop 7 impressive titles. You talk about Arsenal and how impressive they have been in matters to do with FA. I know maybe you're questioning the fact that he's not won the Champions League, something that a lot of people actually are talking about and saying how beautiful would it have been if Arsene Wenger would have won the Champions League. But remember, in our Twitter poll question today, we are asking you, is Arsene Wenger's resignation one of the best decisions he ever made during his 22 years stay at Arsenal? And again, how will you remember him? The hashtag is at KTN Scoreline, at Moses Wahisi is my Twitter handle, at Robinson Okenya also, and as a TT at TT Wayaki. So you can send your views. We will be sampling. Remember, the hashtag is at KTN Scoreline. Maybe let me just read 2 before we move to other stories. Moha Mogeni is saying, Arsene Wenger has absolutely nothing to lose after resigning from Arsenal. The losers here are the fans. This guy won everything except the UCL. He did a tremendous job worth being emulated. So that one is a very, very happy fan saying what Arsenal has been able to achieve under the tutelage of that manager. Now, Papa Sagani is saying, when he sold Robin van Persie to Manchester United at Sir Alex Ferguson, then United were able to win the Premier League. So he remembers at that time how impressive Robin van Persie was for Manchester United as they won their 20th Premier League title. Gishu is saying, I will remember him for the 8-2. I remember that 8-2. I think it's a loss against Manchester United he's talking about. So, yeah. And then Drums at Austin Snapper is saying, for the 49 games unbeaten run, that is in the 2003, 2004 season, the Invincibles, I believe. So we will be talking about Arsenal and what he's been able to do, what he has been able to achieve, and maybe what Arsenal fans and even football fans as large will be able to remember Arsene Wenger with. Now, let's move on and talk about something different, and that is the London Marathon. We know tomorrow